George. Say George and Pringle.
Oh, the you? Probably by examples, but then we will deploy our own. I don't know, probably the results crazy because on the way to the point, figure out how to do like process and settings. So yeah,
Germany, what? Hey, someone may have lost their keys. There's a Falcon 6X tagged keychain. Does anyone have this kind of keychain? Anyone with lost keys? They'll be here in the center table, so if someone's looking for it, do let them know.
Did you check out the kitchen, bro?
good lanes. They're only
What the
4K here.
fuck?
It should run professionally. Gee, who's right for that? Goes wrong job. Right perfection, wrong job.
Okay, everyone that is nearby a chair, can you pull all the chairs into the center of the room so that everybody has a chance to sit and see the presentations? So grab chairs from the left, chairs from the right. If you're next to a chair that you see that's open and can be grabbed, do grab it.
Where's the chairs from?
We're gonna take alpacas next. Oh, we have to bring it back.
If you don't have a chair and you want one, there are 10 additional chairs in the kitchen area. Sharif, Kamal, Amy, you are leading. Daniel and Joseph, you are on deck. Yeah, you're a little bit. Also in the spreadsheet.
Yeah. How do we connect to TV?
Excuse me.
He should. Oh, I'm also.
Michelle, are we recording? Jamie, where's our last guest? And where's our last judge? Jamie, are you here?
On one side of one.
Whew. Congratulations, one and all, on making it to the end of a glorious model training hackathon. Let's hear it for yourselves. Woo! There's something special about the camaraderie that comes out of being sweaty after 8 hours of hardcore hacking, where everything went wrong, but some things went right, and those moments of glory with your newfound hacker friends are indispensable. So, super stoked to have what looks like 16 phenomenal teams who made it to the very end and are shipping at the first custom LLM hackathon. Congratulations. So first team is up. I presume you have named yourselves appropriately. What is your name?
Our team name?
Yeah.
Seinfeld script generator.
Okay.
Sign LLM.
So I give you Seinfeld script generator. So, last comment. So basically, they're using what's called screenplay. So you see this top right-hand corner option. Click that when you're about to come up and present, and pick a screen, and it'll ask you for a code. Enter the code, and you'll be streaming to that screen. I'm going to put a timer up. Oh, good.
There are still some shards of glass on the floor, so
Oh,
if
yeah,
you are
yeah.
coming up to present, try and wear shoes, please. We cleaned it up as best we could.
Yeah, watch out for the glass on the floor. Do wear shoes if possible. I'm going to put a timer on. It's a 4-minute timer. And so you have some space to present. The judges will interact with your large language model if you've managed to make it up on Poe or Hugging Face or any other service. And there'll be a back and forth with a single Q&A after your presentation. So prepare yourselves, but also be excited to discover what has just been created in the last few hours. Good luck. Thanks.
Hello. So we wanted to see how we can fine-tune the models to be a little bit Seinfeld funny. And we took about 173 episodes of Seinfeld, 3,000 words each, and tried to fine-tune it and then see if we could give it a scenario. And based on that scenario, if we can create a Seinfeld script. And I think it did a pretty good job.
Yeah, so I'll just demo it. Let me paste in my summary real quick. Okay, I got it. Cool, so the summary is Jerry and George are debating whether they would date AI robots instead of real women. And then we just hit enter. And then after about 5 to 10 seconds, we get a solid 512 tokens of Seinfeld script token prompts, or token generations. Let's see what it outputs.
All right.
All right, I'll read it. Okay. let's say, so Jerry, let's say it's the year 2045. All the AI robots are perfected. They can do everything. They can clean your house, they can cook, they can drive your car, they can make love to you. Would you still rather have a woman? George, I'd still rather have a woman. Jerry, really? George, yes. Jerry, why? George, I like the warmth, the softness, the smell. Jerry, okay, let's say the robot can replicate all of that. George, well then I'd still go with the woman. Jerry, why? George, I like the vagina. Jerry, the vagina. George, it's a beautiful organ. Okay, so let me just be frank here. This was purely based off the Seinfeld scripts, and I feel like a lot of us are used to the OpenAI RLHF, like super harmless models. This is not one of those models. This is a very harmful model. Okay, we continue. Jerry, the vagina. George, it's a beautiful organ. Jerry, the robot could replicate the vagina. George, I'm sure it could, but I'd still take the real thing. Jerry, well, I think I'd take the robot. And then Elaine, I take the robot. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. It's actually kind of funny, and we had a previous prompt where we asked it to generate a Jerry and George discover a hackathon, and then I can scroll up and show it to you guys. So it's right. Oh, this one is actually also funny. So the prompt was also Jerry and George were debating whether they would date AI robots instead of real women. Opening scene: Jerry and George are at a restaurant. George, so what's your stand on the robot thing? Jerry, I don't know. George, well, I think it's great. I do it in a second. Jerry, I'm not sure I trust it. George, well, what's the difference? You're not going to get AIDS from a robot. Jerry, that's true. George, I mean, you could have a stereo in there too. You could blast your favorite music while you're making love. Jerry, that sounds like a good idea. So yeah, I mean, it's actually pretty funny. And you can pretty much give it any summary. Does anyone have any recommendations or ideas right now that we should type into this unfiltered, raw, unsafe model? Okay, cool, awesome. Now we're gonna pretty much, so like the TLDR on how this was made is we just fine-tuned Llama 13B on all of Seinfeld. And it took a few tries, but 4 epochs, 5E, -5 learning rate, and yeah, that's
quick run through of what we
pretty much
tried.
it.
Oh, actually, let me demo the front end real quick. So the front end is currently not hooked up to the model that we fine-tuned. It's just a OpenAI API call because unfortunately, Together was down for a sec for us. But it was on Together. And as you can tell here from a similar prompt, the output is very vanilla. It's kind of boring. But yeah, this is the supposedly, this is the imaginary front end that we're trying to go with this. But quick run through on how the data set was processed and how training was done. So we basically found a Steinfeld data set from Kaggle, and we used Turbo to summarize each episode. So we trained the JSON-L file. It was composed of a summary of each episode with all the dialogue. And we tried a few different training setup. We tried Together, tried using a custom repo.
Llama recipes.
And we realized that we had to adjust the learning rate as well as epochs to find a version that actually worked. Took a few tries, but eventually worked. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
So you're not done.
Oh, okay.
So how does this compare to the base model?
So the base 13B model.
Yeah, Llama 13B.
So we didn't know, the base 13B model is just kind of like impossible to use without fine tuning. So you could use few shot prompting, but it doesn't really work. Yeah, I think a better comparison would be comparing this to like the GPT-4 API.
Like, which is here.
Yeah, so the thing is like, the GPT-4 API is not funny because it's like really filtered, and OpenAI has done a really good job of making like sure there's no unsafe or even funny training data in the training data for GPT-4, but you can just get around that by fine-tuning Llama model, and it's actually pretty great.
Question from the judge panel.
Sorry about the Together issues. We were working on them.
Also, point of learning was, which we talked about as well, is that I think Together works really well, and it's really, really easy to train. It took me like 5 command line calls in 5 minutes, whereas Llama recipes took like maybe 15 minutes editing a bunch of things to make sure everything's working. But there is a lot more abstraction here, so it's a little bit harder to figure out why the training wasn't working as well as we wanted to when it wasn't working when we tested it. So I guess there's trade-offs with abstractions.
Okay, let's hear it for Seinfeld. Okay, Seinfeld is out. LLMs for customizable automated test writing. Daniel and Joseph, you're up. Synthetic data, improved RAG by Chanda. You are on deck. You're on deck. You're on deck. You're on deck. Cool. Perfect.
Yeah. So
Okay, let's hear it for customizable test writing.
yeah. Hi everyone. So I'm Daniel. And so
Hey, we're starting the next presentation. Silence, please, while they're presenting.
yeah. So we thought of using LLMs to generate tests because who is writing those? And so here's a small gradual demo that you can see. Sorry, I will just remove nightlight. Better here. And if you want to play with it, you can find it on the sheet. We did use AnyScale API at the beginning. We haven't had time to fine tune it. So if you want to play, you have to put your API key at the beginning. Yeah, and so yeah, it's just like the name implies. You write code. We have a few examples. We use a Llama 2 70B to generate the tests. Then we use a test on the code. And here, for instance, the interesting thing that we came up with is you can see which test passed and which test did not pass. And those both tests are generated by the LLM. Well, you could also think like, does the test suck? I mean, the issue is that either the test suck or the code suck. And there is no meta testing solution that knows if your test is good or not, which is a big issue. But yeah, we're working on that. Yeah, so that's more or less what it does. So this is a base thing that we wanted to have for Tonight for you to see. Then we have improved. We thought at first at improving the prompt, both through prompt engineering, but also through retrieval of relevant code. The idea is that here it's stateless, but we are working on having something that you install it on your laptop or in your company's server, and then you index your code base and then create a relevant test. We had some stuff like that, but for the demo we just had the stateless thing. And we also did a quick look at some eval instruct techniques to create also the fine-tuning set, but we didn't have time to fine-tune it. But we had a look at this as a potential next steps. So yeah, the base Llama 2 70B is not that bad. Yeah, it's linear algebra, it kind of sucks. Okay, it's going to take a while to run, but you can see that most of the tests will not pass. With the regular, lead code stuff, it works better. But yeah, it's interesting. And yes, so that's what we did. Questions? Yep.
At which part in your development workflow do you think this would be the most useful?
Sorry, what was the end?
So at which part in your software development workflow do you think auto-generating tests would be the most useful?
I guess it depends on you. Like if you are hardcore test-driven, developers, I guess it can help you at the beginning to write the initial thing. Most people don't, and then you just see it at the end. I guess it depends on. I think you can either say it if you are a very test-driven team, then it's a way to make it easier for you. And if you're not a test-driven team, it's a way to still do it and don't feel guilty about it. I guess it depends on your philosophy of life. So that is just to have a kind of low cost, lower the cost of writing good tests. So it depends on your philosophy. I guess it works for both. Yes.
So I think in this case you started with code, right?
Yeah.
And then you said, hey, write tests for this code.
Yeah.
Did you try just saying, hey, I want you to write tests with just, you say, I describe, right?
Yeah.
What I want, and then, it'll write some tests, and then you can write the code to.
We thought about this too, but wanted to have something that is natural and is retro-compatible with most of what people do. And the truth is people don't do that. So wanted to have something that could be used as a patch.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, but yeah. I guess if you're really test-driven, that would be the way to go. But who here is really test-driven? That's the question. And we are in the ML community, we know, don't try to.
Okay, thank you. Chandon, you're up. Let's hear it for test-driven generative AI. Apologies, I stepped out. I had to deal with my bleeding hands from the glass that broke.
All right. Hey everyone. Today we did an experiment with using synthetic data and open source language models to improve quality of generation with RAG. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we worked on several things. One of them was fine-tuning a model to generate new data to solve for some of the issues that we've had in the past with working with vector databases. I kind of liken question and answering to throwing a dart at a dartboard and trying to catch it with the, hopefully that's the right cluster and the right, the information that you need in the context. So we, this was actually Sean's good idea, was to augment the sort of the existing data and questions with more questions that are more likely to be the questions that might be asked by the user, which tends to get us a more narrow and accurate kind of context in response to a similarity search. So.
All right, so what is this down? So the theory is, if you fine-tune for data, you're going to hallucinate a lot. So the solution to that is retrieval augmented generation. But if you do RAG, like Shah mentioned, you're limited to cosine search results, which can give you some part of the answers, but not everything. So then what you do is you say, okay, let me increase the context window, and then when you increase context window, you are back to hallucinating very happily here. What do? You try to improve the quality of the RAG context. All these days we have been doing this by improving the quality of ingest. And now we're trying to see if we can use synthetic data, synthetic Q&A pairs to do the same thing. And so hopefully we have this version of Eric Bachman and all that. So let's see how that works. So what we did was we took a Hugging Face legal data set. We ran two separate pipelines. The first pipeline used a sentence transformer for embeddings from Hugging Face. We stored the vectors in Pinecone, and then we used Together.ai's amazing APIs that let us access a $70 billion model. All of that was hosted on Poe. This is what our data set looks like. My employer fired me, what do I do? And there's some information about that. My ceiling collapsed, God help me, and there's somebody answering something about that. So here's an example of what you can do. What does synthetic data mean? So given this context, the 70B model was able to generate these questions out of this. Now, imagine now taking these questions and storing them with answers in your retrieval database, so you have a lot more ways to find the answer rather than just the words that were represented in that context. All right, so let's jump into Poe. So, where is it? I will find it today. This is it, okay, cool. So this is Poe, and what it's doing here is it's accessing, when I ask a question, it's making a call to the it's making a call to a modal endpoint, which then refers to a RAG model. It's calling Pinecone, getting the context, fitting the context into this, and then showing the results. And that looks something like that. So when you ask a question, we get this kind of context, and then we say, given this context, can you answer this question? All right? So that's something like this. Given the context above, something like that. How do I set up a company? So that's what's happening in the back end, and let's see what happens in Poe. Okay, so this is RAG. So because it's RAG, I want to show you that it doesn't work on its own memory. So I'll say, what is the capital of France? The 70B model knows this, but because this is RAG, it should not be able to answer that because it's not allowed to look into its memory.
It has something in the prompt where it's evaluating if it should know this information, so it doesn't try to hallucinate it.
Yep. So it says this, but yeah. So that's the right answer, right? No?
We didn't tell it anything about France, so it refuses to answer anything about France.
So now let's say, how do
While he's typing that in, for the Reddit database, basically what we did was we couldn't really find a data set that really fit our needs, so we grabbed the title of questions that were asked people on Reddit, and then we found the best comment and scraped that with a scraper, and put that together for our database, and then that's where we got our terrible legal advice.
So now I asked, how do I set up a company in the USA? It says that, but just give it another few seconds, and you should be able to see an answer soon. Yeah. So that's legal advice from Reddit with a pinch of salt. That's it. That's what we did. Retrieval augmented generation using open source models and synthetic data. Thank you.
Any questions from our venerable judges?
So you created a prompt that says specifically
Okay, Jay has a question.
You created a prompt that said specifically don't look into your own memory.
Yes.
And then you wanted to basically minimum.
No, just if it's not in your current context that was retrieved, just respond with that.
Got it. And so this is a way to minimize the hallucinations by giving it a database by which it will respond out of the context, out of the database, which puts into the context window.
Yes. That's a little bit of prompt trickery at the end, but it's really more about providing the right context and augmenting the context so that we get more close to the knowledge you're actually looking for based on the questions. One of the big problems, okay, so generally when people vectorize a database, vectorize documents into a database, they just chunk the document out and they kind of compare their question to parts of that document. But actually questions and answers usually don't have a whole lot in common and conceptually can be very far apart. So by creating questions, we can actually match questions to questions, which gets us much, much closer to the content space. It makes similarity search much more accurate.
I see, but you're kind of iterating through where you say, well, we're going to minimize the hallucinations on the generation of the synthetic data, then we're going to put it back into the retrieval database.
Yep.
And then we're gonna,
Retrieval, augmentation, and fine-tuning. One is going to capture more grounded truth, especially when we get into knowledge graphs, which if you're interested, this is what I work on. I'm really looking for people to do that stuff. The other thing is that we want to capture tone. Tone has to be fine-tuned in. That's not going to be a retrieval thing. So ChatGPT is super lame. That's because that's a fine-tuned problem.
so you're both fine-tuning and
Yes.
Very cool. Give RAG one last round of applause. Okay. Yeah. Thanks so much, Chandan. We have a Rusty Llama up. That's James, Cody, Tom, and Eric. On deck, we have TOS Companion. Have your terms of speech read. TOS read and flagged for unfair clauses. I presume this is terms of service by Megan and William. You guys are on deck.
Hey everybody, so I'm Cody. I code mostly in Rust, and so one of the things that I've really been kind of disappointed by like all the models coming out is that the quality of their Rust code is really bad, right? And that's like mostly because like, hey, Rust is like more of a new language, there's not as much of it, all that kind of stuff, right? But I also noticed myself, I wasn't coding in Rust as much when I was starting new projects because I was like, hey, I want to use ChatGPT along with this stuff. The quality of the code that's going to be coming out of it is going to be like better if I'm using it for Python or Go or whatever, right? But that's always a mistake. The reason why is because those are not memory safe languages. And so you should always be writing in Rust. So yes, I was very sad because I couldn't use ChatGPT for my job. I do Bitcoin development stuff, and so there's a lot of like cryptography, and so for those things you need memory safety. Like there's a lot of stuff where we're like handling people's funds, all that kind of stuff. You want the compile time guarantees that Rust give you. And so the more than 80% of developers want to use Rust again, that came from, it's like Rust is the most beloved language among people who are like people who are coding, right? Is the least loved language of these chat models. Like all of them write the most garbage Rust code ever. But their Python's really great, right? And so the next slide. Yeah, so we made a custom LLM. We taught Llama to code Rust, right? And so training rounds are still going, right? Which we'll get to. But for basically, if you want to do the next slide. Yeah, so what I heard was Llama didn't include any code in its training data. That's actually not true, but it wasn't like specifically designed for coding or whatever. It doesn't write good code. What I heard when people told me that was Llama 2 has not been corrupted by Python and JavaScript. And so therefore, I can train in proper coding procedures, like using Rust and actually handling memory correctly, right? So, yeah.
Okay, so this was our strategy. We started by scraping hundreds of Rust-specific repositories off of GitHub. We filtered out all of the content that wasn't Rust code. We put that into the format needed to upload it to Together. We tried on both Together and Replicate at the same time in case we had any issues. And we did run into some issues. We ended up continuing to work with Together. And the final step after that is to evaluate, to test if the model is better. I'll just go, and I just added here like a quick example of how would you actually test it or how would you actually evaluate it. Well, one thing you can do is you can give the LLM the beginning, like a stub of a beginning of a function, and then see if it correctly completes that function.
Can I just add something real fast for that? One of the cool things I think hasn't been explored yet that we were going to get to, but we were kind of stuck up on the training runs for this, was because of the compile time checks that you can do with Rust, that's something where you can actually do really good static analysis on the code that's being generated, right? Because like it's not even going to compile if there's like memory issues, if there's thread safety issues, anything like that, right? And so there's a lot, and also the way that you structure Rust code is that the documentation tests are in the same file as the code. It's not like separated out. And so it actually, I think, is very unexplored for this one, where you could actually do really good training specifically over Rust documentation code.
So I'm going to tell the story of our development process today. So first we started by building up a data set, and what we needed was a large code base of Rust code. So essentially we went on crates.io, which is the package manager for Rust, and found the 1,000 most popular crates, and just pulled all of that Rust code down. It was like 50 gigabytes worth of code. We quickly realized that was more code than we could really put into our model, and so we trimmed that down, cleaned it into the right JSON format, and then just called Together, fine-tune, create, essentially. And what happened after that was basically our the first run aired out. We worked with the Together AI team to actually fix that issue. They were really responsive. And yeah, that was a really productive experience that we had together. Yeah, we just ended up basically, our day went a lot like just waiting on the training run to keep, so yeah, the engineers went to get coffee at one point, still waiting.
And we also submit some fine-tuning jobs to the replicate, but all the jobs failed, and so we are still depending on the Together yet.
Yeah, so actually a little secret is our model is actually still fine-tuning even right now. Yeah, so essentially how is Rusty Llama going? Well, we'll find out pretty soon.
And the second epoch finished 10 minutes ago.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. Thanks for listening, guys.
Just a quick comment from the Together side. the data set wasn't too large, but the tokenizing of the code was much slower than normally tokenizing of text. We're not sure why, but we're going to investigate to try and figure that out.
Any questions? Say we disagree that we should program in Rust more?
Don't start that.
Okay, let's hear it for Rosciolama. Okay, we have TOS Companion for a legal. You guys are up. Are you here? Megan, William, you're on. Sad days. So it seems like they have a model up on Poe. I will, in sort of exploratory fashion, see whether I can get a request from the crowd. Okay, so this model claims to help with terms of service. Does anyone have some terms of service that I should analyze using their model? Open season. Yell it out.
Does Poe have terms of service?
Which service?
Poe itself has
Post terms of service. Okay, Adam, let's see what you've got. Oh, just a link. Wow. You did that?
You can drop text in and write it.
Failed to fetch po.com/about because of a problem crawling the URL. But okay. Here are potentially unfair clauses to examine. Yeah, for sure. Let's see what Adam's been up to. 3.3, broad restrictions on use. 3.4, by submitting feedback, users grant Poe the right to freely use, copy, distribute, disclose, publish, and create derivative works from that feedback. Broad license to use user content and bots for a variety of purposes. Can terminate access for any reason at any time. I mean, difficult, yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't know. What should be asked? Any requests? Okay, what if I put what if I put an incredibly erotic large language model on? I'm sure nobody would do this. Certainly nobody at our hackathon. Based on post terms of service, creating or adding bots that generate inappropriate or lawful contact violates Section 3.3's restricted usage and Section 4.4's requirement that users ensure that their bots and content do not violate applicable laws or policies. Specious. So let's see if it's true. You cannot use Poe to violate the rights of another party. Violate any of these terms of our policies: reverse assemble, reverse compile, decompile, translate, or attempt to discover the source code or underlying components of models, algorithms, and systems of Poe. Malware, spamming, hacking, bypassing protective measures. Yeah, I think it's clean. So, I don't know. I don't know. What is the any questions for the book?
I don't know all the details of this. I can take any feedback back to our lawyers, but obviously if there's anything that gives people real concerns, we're happy to take the feedback. I do want to point out this model, this bot, is not a fine-tuned model. This is a prompt on, and if you click on the bot at the top, the name, you can see at the very top of the screen. You can see that. I think they were trying to train a model, but then ended up just going with this prompt.
Okay.
But it's actually like a very good prompt, I think, and so it's these are like lawyers or law students who made this, so it's a cool use case. But I think just we should know if we're judging this is not a fine-tuned model, which I think was, it probably means it shouldn't be eligible for to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, this is is not a custom large language model. I was very excited they got onto it, but actually, yeah, sad days. All that said, let's hear it for the absent TOS companion. Okay, Llama Care, you are up. Winnie, your wine connoisseur, you are on deck. Ishan, Edward, ready to go? Are you here?
Yeah.
Hi everyone. I will start with a story. So 2 years ago, I got injury and I had a surgery. And through that process, I got a lot of medical bills. And through this process, I got to know more about the medical billing and
I'm sorry.
Okay.
We're locked up.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I'll continue talking. It turns out the insurance, the process of getting medical billing is we need someone to go through the doctor click notes and then extract several notes from 70,000 medical notes. And this process is currently manually done. And so one of the disadvantages, it took a lot of time. And second, it's also cost a lot of money because you need human laborers to do that. And thirdly, the accuracy is not very high. According to statistics, it's only 50%. So we think AI can do it better because it sounds like a very repetitive process. And currently, the most powerful model is GPT-4. But people maybe don't want to send their medical clinical notes to OpenAI. That's why we need an in-house model to do that, and it will also be more. It will be also low cost and faster. So we have the click notes. This is my click notes. So you can see it's very long. And then the person need to do is to actually read through all of this and then find just two notes, two codes. Can we see the codes?
Not this page, but.
Okay, yeah. So what we did today is we fine tune the Llama model with the doctor notes and the codes, and we actually generate synthetic data set and train together AI, but we had some problem deploying it, so we cannot show you the fine-tuned model, but to get the idea, it will be you can send the doctor notes to the model, to the fine-tuned model, and then it will generate the medical codes for you. So these are the medical codes we are looking for, and this process will, I think, hopefully will help the insurance, the billing process, speed up and also reduce human efforts. And yeah, that's all for our project. Any questions?
Yeah, any questions on custom LLMs for medicine? Going once, going twice. Okay. In that case, we have Winnie, your wine connoisseur, by Alyssa and Andre up. Llama Love, you are on deck.
Hi everyone, I'm Alyssa, this is Andre, and today we worked on Winnie, which is your wine sommelier as a service.
Way louder.
Way louder.
Yeah. All right. So today we worked on the sommelier as a service. So put your hand up if you don't like to drink. All right. Fantastic. So the majority of us are alcoholics. That's what I'm getting. So Alyssa and I love a great glass of red, and so what we were thinking was, what happens when you're not sure? You're at a restaurant. You're like, man, I want to get this spaghetti bolognese. I don't know what pairing to get. We came up with Winnie, our sommelier as a service. Today what we did was we scraped a food pairing log and the wine Bible PDF. Then we used GPT-4 to create the question and answering pairs. Alyssa then fine-tuned Llama 2 for a 13 billion chat, and now we have a sommelier in your pocket. Yeah, please check it out on Poe. So here we can see a comparison. I'll show you the Winnie, and next I'll show you the Llama 2 vanilla flavored. Okay, so here we're asking what goes well with the clam chowder, and Winnie is able to tell you not only that a dry white will go with it, but exactly where and which region that you should get a wine from. On top of that, it gets a Wensleydale, just have a cheese, and also gives you the region that you should get your cheese and wine from. So it's fine-tuned on the 2 data sets that we mentioned. And here you can see the vanilla Llama 2 13B, and it gives you a very general sense, but it doesn't tell you the region, doesn't tell you the specifics about which type of wine and where you should get the wine from. So maybe some possible extensions to this we were discussing would be using a database for SQL and basically getting the specific wines and suggesting them for when you were like, okay, maybe I want to pair these two things together. Yes, that is all. Are there any other questions?
Do a live demo.
Oh yeah, do you guys want to see a demo? Are there any
Questions
pairings?
about wine? Demo. It works.
We promise. All right, are there any, what should I ask? Any of your favorite meal here?
Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so I guess a bit more detail about our process. So we went and found like a large textbook for wines. It went over like just the basics of winemaking as well as different regions, as well as a document more specifically for food wine pairings. So we converted those to text files, and then we queried the ChatGPT API to generate we put in the PDF as the context and then generated some human bot dialogue and then passed that in for the training.
Nice.
And here you go.
So my alcoholic in the back in the morning is going to get some Moscato or Riesling for your Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Any questions? Any requests for output? Okay. Llama Love, you are up. YC GPT, you are on deck.
Share to founders members. Right screen. Great.
All right. I think the screen's up. So we are Llama Love, and we have the dream team here. And we had a great idea. I think we were talking about what can we do, with all the people here, looking for connections and looking for real love. And somehow our GPT companions are not really up to our tasks. So today we're going to introduce Llama Love.
So Llama Love is a fine-tuned model for love, lust, and longing. So the original inspiration of this project actually comes from real story from some of our friends. And we all have moments when we got lost in words when we're engaging in a love conversation or some tricky relationship like response. So when we ask like our large language model for guidance, oftentimes the responses are disappointing. Even regular question like pickup line, flirtation guidance, or some starting conversation, they often suck. Models, they either unwilling to provide response or think it's unethical or some bizarre, awkward response like provided by OpenAI. So we decided to tackle that problem. We fine-tuned a 13B llama model specifically for romantic dialogue and also love conversation in the pillow type. During our testing, llama love demonstrate more. Yeah, this model. So we did a bit tryout. During the testing, we start with a simple like prompt, hey baby. And we're going to show you the different results you see here. I think llama love definitely demonstrate more like a love and helpful response compared to Cloud 2, which is unhelpful. OpenAI barely can answer, and even to the base model like llama model here. So demo time. Just heads up, this might be a playful, a little bit spicy model. You will expect it. Just FYI.
Yeah, so the first model I'll show you is a model that we fine-tuned on just a book. Actually, I'll pull it up. Can you hold the mic real quick?
So yeah, this was the book we fine-tuned the models on. So we can start with the prompt here. We can say something like, they were laying in bed together.
Maybe you can read it out because it's really small.
Oh, yes. And let me read it out. So 50 Shades of Grey, it of course takes some, it's maybe 1% love and lustful, and the other 99% builds up the moment and gives the characters a persona. So here we can see it generates a whole story. It starts with, it was a bit awkward, but they had both decided that they would give it a try. It was hard for her to relax. She was so nervous. He was laying there with his arms around her. Yeah. I won't continue. You can read it. You guys can read it. Yeah. Do I have any prompt requests? Oh, got it. Okay.
What kind of hackathon?
Okay. Hold on. Let me just fix that one. I have to change the repetition penalty.
No new line.
No new line?
Yeah, after the prompt, don't have a new line.
Okay.
You can hit the little refresh in the bottom right corner of the window you're in.
Okay.
Maybe not. It's still going on. There you go.
Oh wait. She was at Hackathon. In a dark room.
Quietly waiting.
So the other piece that we put together is we also made it also speak. So we added a text-to-speech model from Suno AI called Bark. And so some other models that, hopefully you guys can hear this one. This is some output that we got from a previous model, which says, hey baby, you're looking good. I can just play it for you. The speaker's from there right now. Over there. Okay.
Or change the speaker to
I can also change the speaker over here. Nice. Okay.
Hey baby, you're looking good. I'm looking for a single man.
Yeah, so we experimented a little bit with basically adding these laughs and these sighs, and you can see text-to-speech open source models are not quite as there as 11 Labs is, but it was kind of fun to play around with to vocalize the generations that are created from 50 Shades of Grey fine-tuned. I'll show you one last thing, which is that we also fine-tuned on Love is Blind transcript from Netflix. And so this is a chatbot that we created that responds back to you. So here I'll just add some text, and please shout out a prompt, and I'll just type every prompt I hear. So I'll start with, hey baby. Someone give me another prompt. It should reply back with like something from Love is Blind or Love Island, the Netflix series. Okay. This one's less fine-tuned. This one only gave 1,000 samples or something, but yeah. Cool. Oh, and we have one more demo actually.
So we took it one step further and we wanted to make it conversational. So we have two versions. We have a male version and a woman version. So we can do the male version if you want, or
Female version.
the female version, okay. Hi, Samantha. Hi, Samantha. Oops, got some errors. Hi, Samantha.
Up the volume.
Hey, Samantha, what are you up to today?
Samantha, oh, not much.
Hey, Samantha, do you want to go out tonight?
Samantha, oh, I don't know.
Well, it's not really, she doesn't like this. Hey, Samantha, what's up?
And that, everyone, is Llama Love.
Thank you. Any questions for Llama?
Oh.
Everyone understands exactly what's going on.
You guys.
How did you do the fine-tuning on 50 Shades of Grey?
Yeah, so Together AI just has an API where you just give it a JSON blob. You just say, here's the text. And we basically just found this PDF of 50 Shades of Grey. And I just did a Control-A, Control-C, pasted that into a text document, and then asked ChatGPT to write code to format that into the Together AI's format, which is just JSON, which I can show quickly. It's just
How did you chop it?
chop it.
Did you chunk it?
We basically, I think it came pretty well chunked. Like in terms, like it was basically like one sentence. Let me see if I can show the.
Did you put the entire episode transcript as one line?
Oh, we put for the Love is Blind one, it didn't work very well. So maybe you want to try something different. But we put basically every sentence was like one of the blobs in the fine tune. So this is actually from Love is Blind, which are pretty short sentences.
And in 50 Shades, it was also one sentence, or was it longer?
I think. Let's see. Here's the 50 Shades ones. So.
It might work better if you chunked it to like 4K context, right?
That's some,
Blurbs of 4K.
okay, that's some good feedback. Okay. Good. Good. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you, Llama. Okay, we have YCGPT up. GigaGen. Sorry, excuse me. There's Scott once again, higher in the line. SFGov chat, you are now. I have a spreadsheet history that says otherwise.
Okay, so we created YC GPT for early stage founders and some investors to look at companies, similar companies building in their space. So it looks at things like feature sets, target audience, what they're hiring for. So we were initially looking at actually incorporating like Crunchbase data, PitchBook, and even their socials. But due to time constraints, we actually just resorted to looking at YC's directory of companies, and then not only their profile page, but also articles that are linked from there. Yeah, so I'll pass it to Pascal.
All right. Regarding the implementation, what we did was basically we scraped all companies from all batches since 2020, I think.
Yeah.
And went to all the YC posts, scraped all the data from there, then also took all the news articles that were listed there and scraped also these websites. So we had lots of data for different YC companies. What we did then was to bring all this data into a question-answer pairing chunk. So we created our data set. For that we used Anthropic, and then we used this all these question-answer parts and uploaded to Gather AI and trained the Llama 7 billion chat model. And yeah, in the beginning it was not working, but apparently Anand just fixed it in the last minute and can give us a demo now.
So right now the way it's set up, it's working 50% of the time. So we started with the epoch of 4, and then we raised it to 10. It started behaving better. So then we raised it to like 40. The last one we trained is with 40. So every time we're burning $100 of credit from Jamie doing that. But yeah, right now it's working 50% of the time. Show you the few runs we did earlier. So the last one, we asked like, what award did Cyberdontics win in 2021 from Foresight Dentech? It did answer correctly, which is Care Capital Award from in 2021. But we did ask where is Replicate based, but it's hallucinated and said San Francisco. So the location data, it seems to say San Francisco irrespective of where it is. But our data say it's Berkeley. Maybe we can give a live run right now and check for one question.
Maybe does any one of you have a question about YC companies?
Okay, so it says Pillar Plus was founded in 2022, but it was founded in 2019. So yeah, it's not 100% reliable. Sometimes it's correct, sometimes it's false. So we still need to train it better, probably in a larger data set, or like change the parameters for epoch or like batch numbers to make it much better.
Yeah, so what we realized probably for this application, a RAG application would be better. So with that we can just use a vector database to find the relevant data instead of using fine-tuning in this case.
Can you ask about the fastest growing company in the 23 batches? See what it said.
We can ask.
Which many?
2023.
23 is it?
That's fine. See what it said.
Artist AI.
Artist AI?
Yeah.
Do you know it?
No, I don't know.
Artist AI. You find out it's not YC.
Metaphor from 23.
We'll go and cross-check that.
Yeah.
That's it.
So I think earlier this was more of an experiment because we did some work with retrieval augmented generation, and since the theme of the hackathon is more on the fine-tuning side, so originally I was just thinking like if we were to just use Bing Chat or something like that, for instance, that can retrieve like real time from the internet, it might be a good application. So like probably what we found out is one of the earlier speakers pointed out that I think on the fine-tuning side it might make more sense if you want to adjust the tone of the outputs or maybe get rid of some of the filters. But in terms of if it were to actually, accuracy is a really important goal, then I would say it would probably make more sense to at least incorporate some form of RAG, retrieval augmented generation, in the output pipeline. So yeah, thank you.
Scott, you're up. GigaGen, you are on deck.
Cool. So the project I worked on is called SF GovChat, and the idea is I want to make it more accessible to find out what's going on in our local government. There's a lot of stuff like happening behind the scenes that like we basically just don't know about because it's all locked away in these like 4-hour meetings that happen every week. So you look at these, and the cool thing is there's a ton of data on them. So there's literally a video, there's like their captions, and then there's like the MP3. The funny thing is like their own captions are like so bad. It's like someone manually transcribed them wrong, and so instead, we basically just like open we just get Whisper running, and then we just like transcribe a bunch of them. And so once we have that, we tried a couple approaches, and also, sorry, this is like ridiculously small. But we tried a couple approaches. The first one was fine-tuning Llama, and what we learned is that fine-tuning Llama, that actually just makes it Llama sound like a bureaucrat. So it's just like, I would like to motion to answer the question or whatever, and it's just like, okay, so don't fine-tune Llama on government data, or else it will just become, turn it into an insufferable LLM. So instead, like kind of the previous presenters mentioned, like basically if you have a data dump, it's better to use RAG, and so we just use LangChain, and we set this up to, let me just like, yeah, zoom in a bit. Okay, cool. So basically we set it up so you can, we downloaded all these text dumps from the audio of the meetings, and we just have a ton of audio clips like over here, which I'll show you. You can see in like Finder, like those are just a bunch of audio clips. And then we come over here and we can just ask it questions. So for example, like, can you give me an overview of new laws passed? And then we'll zoom in. All right, so now we'll just like paste this in, and we'll get an overview of laws that have been passed. And these are like, you know, so recent that like the news outlets probably haven't even like written about them because they just happened at the meeting a couple days ago. Cool. All right. And like while we're waiting for that, I can show you some other outputs that have been kind of interesting. I asked it about like any discussion of autonomous vehicles, which is interesting, and they apparently like were passing some resolution to like, they're like, oh, we can't ban autonomous cars, so let's try banning autonomous trucks. And so like for vehicles over 10,000 pounds, they were trying to pass some resolution for that. So this is like why we need to care about SF politics, because like most of the people who run our city are like anti-progress. So this is the answer to the new laws question. I copy and paste it over here, so you can see that like, you know, there's some pretty interesting new ordinances, like some things to expedite permitting. That seems good for once. And then, yeah, just kind of some bureaucratic things. Let's see. Oh, controversial topics discussed. I asked about that. Just like there were some debates on like a transgender like related law. There are some debates on like something for spending cuts. And then I asked it about changes to the tax code. They're actually deferring like some new taxes for a few years. I thought that was kind of interesting. And then I asked it about zoning changes, which is kind of boring to some people, but basically like they're trying to change the office, convert office buildings into residential buildings. So yeah, in summary, like I think it's a pretty cool model, and we'll probably be like releasing it
to help people understand like what's going on in our government. Questions, comments?
What's the biggest alpha that you learned from analyzing all the government data?
Well, I haven't analyzed it all yet, but I think there actually is alpha in there, like basically like things that have gone into effect, like new laws, new like real estate developments. There's probably like, if you're like a real estate person, you can probably like, oh, they passed this like new zoning code, let's go like buy buildings in this area or something. So I think there actually is real alpha there for like certain types of people. Cool, all right. Oh yeah. No, I think the fine-tuning changes the fundamental behavior and how the model acts, which is something I'm pretty new to a lot of this AI stuff, and like I like didn't exactly expect that. So it made the model talk more like a bureaucrat, whereas like if you're just trying to add more data to the system, it makes more sense to just use RAG and like set up LangChain and like Chroma, or there's probably like much other better ways to do it that other smart people here can tell you. What's up? Postgres. Okay. Nice. Cool. All right. Well, thanks everybody.
So, Stephen and I are a GigaGen. The idea is simple. 32,000 token outputs. So we are all familiar with these claims from these fake large language model companies that they have this 100K context window. And actually what they mean is that the inputs can be 100K. The outputs are limited to 2K, 3K at max. And I felt cheated. I felt cheated because I wanted to do incredibly long form generation that was totally coherent, and none of these companies would let me do it. But now Meta's released an open model, and so in theory, nothing should be in the way of us creating our own incredibly long form generative model, because it seems like it's just the instruct fine tuning from the small minds at OpenAI and at Anthropic that is stopping us from unleashing our glory. And as it turns out, there are other things in the way too. So you will see it. But yeah, the inspiration here is simple. We want to fine tune a model to generate full length outputs. And so the technique that we used was cutting books into tenths. So every single book, we had a 187 book generative library, and we basically broke every single generative book into 10 parts, which are something like 20 to 30 pages of book text. And then we generated prompts, simple inputs, to basically have those be outputs. So this is an example of some of the code in our code base. It basically is using Claude 2, which is the only model that had sufficient context length to actually generate from a tenth of a book what we describe as like a great one sentence question, which is answered by that chapter. So it's kind of inverse question answering, where given the book chapter, what we have the model do is, quote, this is a text chapter, summarize this chapter with a one sentence question that this chapter answers. Word it simply. So this basically gives us the ability to create a different kind of chat. A chat where you put in a single sentence and the model responds with an incredibly long form article, high quality book content, and is being inventive in the same way that an author would give you an incredibly comprehensive response to a super simple question. We ran into issues. So it turns out that Together AI had a 60-second to 90-second gateway timeout. That means that the generations that our trained model had, which were supposed to be 32,000 tokens, would take far longer than we had hoped or expected. And so we thought, oh, well, we'll just turn on streaming, and that'll definitely solve the timeouts that we're seeing. But actually, we still saw timeouts, and so we still weren't really sure how to get the model to a serving stage after the training stage. And so we decided we were just going to open source our training data set so that you can basically see and use this on any info that you like. And we're also going to open source the weights for the model if anyone wants to try to serve it somewhere else. So actually, we may have gotten it up on Runpod or somewhere else, but the idea is basically there's a JSON-L file in this Google link, and the presentation is linked in the spreadsheet. So anyone who wants to see what a fine-tuning data set looks like, where the output of the model is, in a lot of cases, 20,000 tokens, 30,000 tokens, and the input is just a sort of single sentence that generates that output, you can download our training data set and go ahead and build your own long-form generation model. And that's it.
Hopefully we'll fix the timeout in the next couple of days, and then you can share the link as well.
Yeah, hopefully it just works. So the model is already up on Together. It's just when it gets called, we get a timeout error. So in theory, we could just share our link, and it might magically just start working in 4 days. So, yeah. Okay, thank you.
How long would it normally take?
To generate the output?
Yeah, to get the full
10
output.
minutes.
Can you demo it on the Together UI? Because the API call is what's breaking.
That also will time out. It's the same infra, I presume, unless, I presume it's the same infra. So.
Another question I had is that I felt like the biggest advantage of chatbot for me is actually to synthesize information. I feel like I don't like, maybe I'm just impatient, I don't like long books or long blog posts that gives you an answer because it's so much fluff and not what I need. So what are the situations that you envision people would really need a long output for such a short input as a question or as, whatever they need?
The core intention is for the AIs to take over knowledge generation themselves.
But I don't need to read the long text to get the knowledge. What if I can just get the knowledge in 3 sentences as opposed to like...
No, you're not listening. You are out of the loop.
So you're not benefiting me in this generation.
The understanding that is created by the body of models that synthesize incredible amounts of knowledge will be packed into technologies that you do not comprehend.
But you're not helping me here as a user to understand a question that I want to ask.
Yeah, well,
erotic audio generation.
Earlier today, I had to do a final, right? And like one of them is like, here's like a 1-sentence question, write a very long response to this thing to just kind of like do the check mark for the final exam or whatever, right? And like I didn't want to do that, but so.
Yeah, or like writing a whole book or writing a whole blog post potentially that is not for the user to interact with the bot, but it generates something that people then later read as long form content.
Especially if you have retrieval augmentation, so you're like, oh, tell me about this topic.
Yeah, long-term podcast.
Isaac Asimov's bad. So who's going to write the next volume? Maybe nobody knows.
Next volume of what?
Isaac Asimov's books.
iRobot.
iRobot.
Yeah, you'll read it?
Hard to read.
I'll generate
But
it.
I'll
And then you can read it again, you let me know how it is. I'm just gonna ask ChatGPT to get the summary.
So, to be clear, I have a personal motivation to create very high quality, long form, fully generated texts end to end that are totally coherent and immersive experiences for reading. And so, ideally, we will be in a world of personalized knowledge. So, if you've ever read a book, that book can now have every emotional experience, every relationship, every anxiety, every psychological. Yeah, everything that is essential to your experience of meaning and your spirit can be put into all of the media that you consume, books, podcasts, and the upside of a book is it's very immersive and comprehensive. So you have characters, you have a scene, you have world building, and the coherence of these books depends on the context windows of these models.
Yeah, I think just one more. Like, I think that argument is because the models right now are not that good. But I would expect, like, I think one of the things that researchers are super excited about is what if we have 5 of the best models that we don't have right now, like a GPT 7, 8, whatever. Just go and crawl archive and all the scientific research papers, do experiments if they have like a physics playground, they can do stuff, and then generate like a whole research paper that is worth reading end to end. I think that's really like the end goal, and a lot of us
I do want to be clear, like the movies that you watch next year that are generated end to end will depend on the coherence that comes out of models that are trained in this fashion. Okay, thank you. Okay, fine tuning, you are up. Fascinating, cool. Rare disease guru, you are on deck.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Dmitry, and long story short, this was my first time when I fine-tuned large language model. I was using
silence while he's presenting.
I was using llama recipes from Facebook, and model that I took for fine-tuning was llama 2 7B chat uncensored from Hugging Face. Original result of llama recipes from the Facebook you can see in GitHub Facebook research, and I can train it and fine-tune it model produce this result, and fine-tune it model after summarization of the dialogue will produce this kind of output. For uncensored 7B model, we have initial result this one, and we discuss getting a packet for a song. They decide to go to the animal shelter together. A shows B a puppy that's a song likes. We discuss the pros and cons of raising a dog. As Son wants to name the puppy after his dead hamster. After fine-tuning, it took about 1 hour, and the result will be Tom will go with A to the animal shelter tomorrow afternoon. A wants to get the puppy for her son. A took her son there last Monday, and he showed her what he really liked, and he wanted to take it home right away. He will name it after his dead hamster, Lemmy. My personal feeling that this output is better than Facebook result here. Also, I was trying to summarize conversation in Slack, and result is following. Like Together is a serverless inference platform. Banana is a serverless GPU for inference. Together and Banana are hosting the custom LLM Hackathon, hosting them starting at 8:40 p.m. And this is some kind of useless output. Maybe you have a prompt for this model. For example, previous what goes well with cinnamon whiskey, and the output is cinnamon whiskey goes well with apple cider, ginger ale, and hot chocolate. But if you have a prompt, I can try it. Any prompts?
She was alone in a dark room.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, oh, sorry, I was not removing that. So also I was I tried to fine tune I was trying to fine tune llama to 7p for to k beta. I get to some point then so I was trying to fine tune llama 7 to 7p k beta using Torch using together computer open chat, but I didn't have enough time to complete the fine tuning. And for this output, I think, yeah, she was alone in the dark room. She just repeated the output. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
We're out of time, unfortunately, but raredisease.guru.
Cool.
Where you at?
Hey guys, anyone else coming up? How do I plug this in?
You got this. So you should AirPlug. Yeah.
I don't have Chrome. This is a desktop screen share.
You're not here. You're good to go.
Okay, sounds good. Awesome. Hey, my teammates.
All right.
Okay. So awesome. I'm Jacob, and my teammate Handel is here, and also my teammate RPC is here on Zoom. Hi, RPC. And we built raredisease.guru, and raredisease.guru is a so you guys have probably asked GPT something that gets an answer like this. As of my knowledge cutoff in September 2021, the connection between X and X is not established, blah, 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 blah. And if you're a researcher working on a cutting edge disease, that's like really not useful to you. In comes raredisease.guru. You can ask a cutting edge biomedical question, trained, or that's in knowledge, that's in the most modern papers possible, and it will presumably give you an answer. And so a good example of this is how is TNXB, that's a gene by the way, connected to mast cell disorders? The question we asked GPT, it gave us the knowledge cutoff in 2021, then gave us generic information. The answer it gave is TNXB is a gene that encodes a protein that's involved in the regulation of mast cell proliferation and differentiation. Mast cells are a type of white blood cell that are involved in allergic reactions and inflammation. Mutations in the TNXB gene have been linked to a number of mast cell disorders, including mastocytosis and mast cell activation syndrome. I think this is like the beginning of applying LLMs to really, really supercharge researchers. Notably, one more like related announcement to this is I think the other thing that's missing from the wider discussion on this topic is the capacity to do more like traditional linked data extractions using LLMs. And this isn't the custom LLM part of this project, so I presented the other thing first, but I've got a website as well called paper2graph.com, or sorry, paper2graph.ai, and if you ever want to upload a paper and have it turned into a queryable graph database, or a set of papers and want to turn it into a queryable graph database, let me know. We've got researchers at Stanford using this to ask me questions about either thing. And if you want to show up at a rare disease hackathon in a couple of months, organized by the Research to the People group at Stanford, I'm co-organizing. So email me at jacob@ideaflow.io. That's the shtick. Any questions?
Okay. We are in Intelligence by I Swear. sorry. Okay. Atticus AI, you're up. Grounded Lava, you are on deck. And then last but not least, NPC Copilot, be ready to go.
Yeah, hi everyone again. So I really enjoyed this. Thank you, Jeremy. So it was a very good learning experience, and I worked on the project I described in the morning. So just to revise, like Atticus AI, like we are looking at like helping lawyers. We build an AI copilot for lawyers, and we help with like any legal paperwork that the lawyers usually work with. So today in particular, I was working on like the mergers and acquisitions. We do a lot of drafting as part of our support to corporate law. And here we have like in our website we have like we call GPT-4 paragraph by paragraph and generate these drafts. And we have some fine tuning which we did on like Lambda Labs and posted on Hugging Face. But today I checked out like together.ai and Poe. So one thing we did was like compared with GPT-4, we have like Atticus LLM that is hosted on Poe. It's in the link Excel sheet. So and we compared the answers. So the data set we used was a mergers and acquisitions data set. That's publicly available now. We downloaded the data set and then used together.ai to train on that and then hosted that. And the answers were like, well, GPT-4 said that like it can't answer up till so and so date. Atticus like LLM was able to answer these questions, but then there was hallucinations with the, like we checked the dates, there were hallucinations with the dates when we compared with the data set, but this seemed like good progress as compared to not even recognizing those mergers happened. So we'll train the Llama 13 billion parameter model, and we looked at the merger agreement understanding dataset, MUAD dataset. We downloaded this dataset and created the JSON L file and used together.ai to further tune it. And so this was the training took like around 2.5 hours. So after and the process was a bit long, but we really appreciate the help I received from Jamie in going through the process. And then yeah, main thing is like fine tuning. It helps grasp like these latest information that's not there in GPT-4. I think this is a very good thing. It's just that I think I need to train on larger models like 70 billion Llama model or to get better with hallucinations. Maybe there are some hallucinations, but it's definitely good that I'm able to add in this new information and it's able to answer more questions and get better drafts. Thank you.
So it sounds like you use a lot of this for your actual company. Do you think that you'll actually switch to fine-tuned models for your company in the future?
Yes, we have been trying. So we are. It was very expensive. We are actually doing it with on Lambda Labs. We bought a GPU and then did a 13 billion Llama model, trained it, and we used like Hugging Face SFT trainer, like supervised fine-tuning trainer, and then hosted that on this. And we did that, but it's super expensive. So I was looking for all these other alternatives and trying to improve it. And this seems like super seamless way to quickly improve, and that's pretty good. I want to work on the 70 billion one though. Like, yeah.
The output looks really good.
Thanks.
For the mergers and acquisitions. Is this all correct?
The dates are hallucinating. Some of the dates are not accurate. We checked the dates. The dates are not correct, but GPT-4 doesn't even recognize it. So that was the thing. So.
Yeah. Any other questions for Atticus? Great.
Yeah, thank you. And if you know any lawyers or legal large high revenue law firms, please refer Atticus. Thanks.
Okay. That was Atticus AI, Confluent AI. Are you good? Vlad, Krill. Okay, Ryan, go ahead. Bring it up. Grounded Lava, you are on deck. That's Saga right now. NPC Copilot, you are third.
Atticus is on right now.
They just won. Yeah, you're up.
so initially we wanted to create a non-English model, and we quickly realized that that's not possible to do in 12 hours. So essentially, what we were planning to do was like have a better and more polished like Llama 2, train on cultural context, on Indonesian language and Ukrainian and Turkish and so many other languages. So what we realized that from today's learning, number one, multilingual tokenizer on top of Llama 2 will take at least 2 days for fine tuning, and they'll cost us like more than $10,000 for in terms of GPU access. Scraping through hundreds of open source multilingual data sets on Hugging Face, none of them actually is good enough for like day-to-day e-commerce use case that we wanted to create. So we ended up pivoting, and you want to talk more?
Yeah, it was definitely a journey. It was fun. We had a good time looking into it. We created a government chatbot, and the reason for that is, if we could go to the next slide. So the problem with a lot of the government agencies, or actually a lot of the things online, is just inefficiency. And there's just too much information, but not enough direction. So, you can go back. There's, for example, like only 21% of the US population doesn't speak English at home. And so that's pretty big. That's out of the entire country we're in. And so language barriers can really slow down processes, when people are going through, especially government agencies, like the DMV. You can go next slide. So like we looked at the top government agencies by customer requests. IRS is number one, and USPS, SSA. But then really, we looked at Department of Motor Vehicles, because it's like a really boring time to go through there. And what we noticed, go next slide. What we noticed is the DMV has 35,000 employees, and they give about $20 per hour for their employees. And when we calculate that into a year, they're spending $183 million a year. So you have 227 million registered vehicles, and you have a ton of people going in there. And especially when you have a language barrier, when they can't properly describe what they're looking for or read the websites, get the proper documentation, you have a lot of like wait times. People are going back, they're going multiple times, and it's like a huge problem. So it's taking hours, thousands of hours of employee time, which costs them a ton of money, which costs us a ton of money. So, the DMV, in one word, is confusing. And even though they have a ton of information online. So, we thought about the solution, which is a customized multilingual model that tells you exactly what you need to do, just like your friends who went through the process would. You just ask the chatbot and receive easy to follow direction in all the languages and for any government agency or business. So for example, we even looked up how to get a license, and there was like 180 different results off their own website, their own search engine. And that could be really complicated for the 21% of the households that are not speaking English, but it's even complicated for English speakers, and that's why you have these people going in and coming back out and going back a second, third time, wasting thousands of hours of employee time and wasting a ton of money. So if you could have a process where, for example, you go and ask your friend, hey, how did you get your license? What was that process like? And the friend just describes it in 3 simple steps to you. You follow that process and you have a much easier time. Why can't we get there? Why can't we have, for example, the best customer service agent at a company or government service, and the way they would explain it, just done through tech? We thought that was like something that was interesting, and so a whole new business model emerged.
All right, so so I guess I'm just gonna share with you guys like some learnings. We tried to fine tune it on replicate, but it didn't quite work out. So we used Together AI. It worked out for like Spanish at least in multiple different ways. We scrape off DMV website and just feed it off into Together AI, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So that's our learnings for today. Thank you. Thank you.
we started the journey with fine tuning for something massive,
Yeah,
and then
and
as we narrowed down,
Your time remaining is limited, yeah.
right, right.
Yeah.
But as we narrowed down, we jumped into a whole different business model, and we were like, wait a minute, why is this not existing?
Totally, totally.
So it's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a good opportunity to do the fine tune next, but.
Yeah, I wish it's more like 3-day hackathon.
Yeah.
We can definitely get done.
So basically, Llama can handle Spanish pretty well, prompted, right?
Yes. I guess like Spanish, Italian, Ukrainian, but not Russian or Indonesian. It's just like gonna refer back to English. We actually benchmark it against like Code Interpreter and OpenAI. It's not too bad. Yeah, it's actually pretty comparable.
Okay.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Okay, Grounded Lava, you are up. NPC Copilot, you are our final presenters. Grounded Lava? No? No Grounded Lava? Okay. And NPC Copilot? Wow, that's it. Oh, wow. Oh, man. Oh, man, oh, man. Okay. Thus concludes the presentations for first custom LLM hackathon. Congratulations on making it. You're survivors. So while we give the judges 10 minutes to deliberate, let's do a big group photo up at the front with everybody. Does anyone have a good camera? I guess we can use this. Yeah, do everyone come up to the front. We're going to take a big group photo.